everybody. Welcome back to Priestess Talk. We have an amazing and incredible show for you, and we have a special guest. Today, we have joining us Kelly Dawn. Kelly Dawn is a witch, psychic guide, and spiritual mentor who has practiced witchcraft since her early teens, and after a powerful encounter with Lucifer, has primarily worked with the demonic divine. In her role as a psychic coach, she helps visionary entrepreneurs uncover what's holding them back from manifesting their desires with more ease. As a spiritual mentor, she teaches those drawn to witchcraft how to work with demons, develop their psychic abilities, and use magic to create real-world results. Welcome, Kelly. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, thank you. We are happy to have you here. So let's dive right in. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey. And I'm especially excited to hear about your encounter with Lucifer.
Okay, amazing. So I'll take you right back to the beginning and give you the short version, but I was always fascinated with the spirit world and with magic as a little kid. We lived in like a really old farmhouse at one point in time that had a ghost in the basement. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And I loved all the shows that had witches and magic and all of that stuff involved with it. And then when I was around 14, that's when I discovered Wicca. And it completely blew my mind because I was like, witches are real? Like, what the hell? And at the time, it was the early 90s. I didn't have access to a lot of information. So Wicca was really the only thing I could get my hands on. And that just never really felt right. And over time, my practice just became a lot more eclectic. And I basically just started doing the things that I felt called to do. And my spiritual path took lots of twists and turns. I ended up in church for a little bit, but I would always come back to witchcraft. And then it was in 2016 that I started feeling this massive pull to work with demons. And I was terrified. I was so scared to work with demons, but it was like every podcast I was listening to, it was with a practitioner who had a really cool working relationship with the demonic divine. And the fear started to kind of melt away and I started making connections with them. And I knew that I wanted to work with Lucifer. He was reaching out, he was kind of calling to me, but I had a lot of reservations. And back then, I really thought that I had to work my way up to working with him. And then I had to work with a bunch of other demons first before I got to that level. This is just a story that I created in my mind based on the information I saw out there. And there was a lot of fear with him specifically. And I knew that when I did want to connect with him, I wanted to do it properly. So I was going to get some roses and incense and candles and all the things. And Lucifer had very different plans because I was with my dog, Oliver. We used to go out and play frisbee in the park every single morning. And so we're out in the middle of this massive field, tossing the frisbee around. And I got this like download, and it was like Lucifer speaking to me, and it was just this internal voice. And he's like, "Now's the time." I'm like, "No, no, no. I don't have the roses. I don't have the proper ritual set up. Like, I can't do this now." He's like, "Now's the time." I'm like, "Okay, all right." And it was the weirdest thing. It's not like I was possessed or anything like that, but it was like I was just being guided in the moment, and it was like he was kind of just leading the entire experience. And he had me walk across the field, and every single time, I'm getting chills as I share this with you. Every single time I took a step, I could start to feel this energy building in like from the ground and running up through my body. And started chanting something along the lines of Lucifer, let me feel your wisdom, knowledge, and power, or something like that. And it felt so ridiculous. I was like, thank goodness I'm the only person here because I feel like I'm in the craft. Like I feel like I'm in a really cheesy teen movie chanting to Lucifer. But I did it. I did it anyway. And it was an experience that I find even to this day really hard to put into words. But it was like I felt him through me. And again, not in a possession kind of way, but I felt his energy, his essence, and I felt this like you're home kind of feeling. And then the coolest thing happened on the walk home from the park because I lived downtown and I had to walk past this ginormous insurance building. And they often had security lights on outside. But that particular morning, all of the exterior lights came on as we walked past. And it was just like this big flash. I was like, what the heck? And I was out playing frisbee with my dog every single day around that time of day. Like this has never happened before. And I lived there for years. It never happened again that I saw. So I'm like, okay, Lucifer, Lord of Light, this is a sign. There has been a connection. So ever since that was, I think it was November 2016, I primarily worked with demons in my practice with Lucifer as like the guiding force.
That is absolutely amazing, and I love that. I love all the synergistic elements, like, with my own journey with Lucifer, like, even down to the silly moments. Like, it's like working with demons, it requires you to be silly. It requires you to kinda let go of that, like, oh, that structured rigidity and just allow the experience to happen, and I love that about your experience, especially, like, how silly you felt because I've had moments like that too. It's like, "Okay, this is absolutely ridiculous what's happening. This is so silly." But yet it has allowed me to open up to the experience, and I actually feel like it deepened the experience and deepened my connection with them because it was so impactful and meaningful.
Yeah, and it felt so personal. It's like I didn't have to go and sit at my altar, even though that's where I prefer to do the majority of my work. It was really eye-opening because I was still approaching the demonic respectfully, but without that rigid, like you have to do things this way or it's not gonna work, or you're gonna mess it up somehow if you don't do things perfectly. I
Yes.
just lost all of that in that moment. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
this gets to be really fun.
Yes, and I think they do that on purpose because I think what they want is to shed that notion of perfectionism, to shed that like fear of like, oh my gosh, I can't do this wrong or I'm going to make a mistake. It's like they open you up so that you can just have the experience. You're not worried. You're not blocking yourself. You're not fearful of screwing up and messing up and destroying the whole ritual and connection. So now you can be present. Now you can be in the moment. That's like perfection is gone and because you're not worried about being perfect, then the ritual itself actually becomes perfect. It's
Exactly.
it's powerful. Like it's so powerful. And I love your journey. Like I absolutely love your journey. You started working with demons and now you're doing business coaching. Cause like for me, demons and business go hand in hand, but it's so rare to see that in the occult world. It's so rare to see that. So that's one thing I love about what you do. So let's talk more about that, like how you made the transition from going from working with demons to integrating aspects of entrepreneurship and business into it.
Yeah, for sure. So I started coaching back in 20, I think it was 2015, 2016. I know I went full time in 2017, but I was coaching before then too. And it was basically spiritual life coaching. Demons were not a part of it at all, but I did start bringing in elements of witchcraft. And so a lot of my work started centering around magical practices. And I was always drawn to work with other entrepreneurs. I had a cleaning business before I got into coaching. And I also was raised in a very entrepreneurial household. So those are my people, and I always felt really great supporting them. And then as that business grew, business coaching just became a natural evolution of it. And I was always really focused on like the mindset and the energetics. I was working with a lot of people who were psychics, witches, they had spiritual coaching businesses, people who were always like in this realm. And then I remember there was this moment where I was like, I really want to start sharing the work that I'm doing behind the scenes in my own practice. But I was terrified because no one was out there in the business spiritual coaching world talking about demons, at least that I saw. And I thought, I'm going to lose my entire audience. My business is going to tank. People are going to think I'm crazy, but we're going to do it anyway. And so I came in and a lot of people did leave. They weren't comfortable with it. But the people who stayed, they were like, oh my gosh, thank you, because so many people I feel are drawn to this work, but
Mhm.
there is that fear and there's this stigma. And when they met me and they were like, well, we already know who you are and what you're about. Now that we know you're into this, it's like they felt safe to kind of
Mhm.
explore that in their own practice as well. And throughout time, like my business has taken lots of twists
Mhm.
and turns around basically what just feels the most in alignment. And now my favorite thing to do, like I teach magic and witchcraft,
Mhm.
but I also coach people who are entrepreneurs using my magical skills as a witch. So I do
Mhm.
psychic readings, I do energy
Yeah.
healing, and I also help people like a lot of the people who come to me, they're
Mhm.
very type A. They were
Mhm.
raised in a very
Yeah.
like material focused world. Like we'll
Mhm.
believe it when we see it. And so
Yeah.
accessing the spiritual can be
Yeah.
really uncomfortable for them. And I'm like, you don't need to work with demons, but there is this entire unseen realm that
Mhm.
you can tap into with the energetics, with your mindset that will skyrocket the results that you're getting because you're making these changes internally. And then with my coaching clients as well, some of them do want to work with demons, but most of them don't. But
Mhm,
they are interested in exploring their own spirituality. So
mhm,
I have conversations with them around connecting with their own guides, working with the elements, and
mhm,
things that they're very comfortable doing. But it all blends together, like everything is connected, right? And I feel like when people are tapped into their own
mhm,
spirituality, then everything is going to thrive. Like their relationships,
mhm.
their health and fitness, their business, everything is going to be getting better because they are having this more holistic approach to everything that they're doing.
Yes, it's so true. And what one thing you said there about like the people who they were either curious about your work with demons or they wanted to work with demons themselves, or they were thanking you for opening up about that. There are so many spiritual paths that are like the light, the light, the light, the light, the light. There's like you can Google like a million different ways to connect to the light, but the darkness. And for a lot of people, they have that darkness inside of them. And, it's nothing that's evil or sinister. It's beautiful, it's sublime, it's majestic. It's this beautiful essence of darkness. And there's not really any paths to help people connect with that. There's not really any guidance out there for people. So, for people, like I could see it being so refreshing to be like, oh, wow, you feel that, it, you understand this darkness. And they want to learn from it. So it's almost like giving an outlet for people who want to be in business and are spiritual, but they don't fit into those white light industries at all.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's something that I struggled with when I first got into it because I'm all for everyone doing what feels best for them. But the things that I was seeing out there, none of it resonated with me. I'm just like, I'm not that person. Like
Yes.
I can appreciate
Yes.
that for someone, but that is not me. And I felt like I would join masterminds, I would
Mhm.
join coaching programs, and I would feel like this misfit, like, and I was afraid to share what I was into because like a lot of it, there is this, oh, you must be into like a lot of sinister, evil things. It's like, well, no, like I curse and I hex, but even within that, like there's ways to go about doing this where you're not you're not some evil
Yes.
person, right? But there's a lot of understanding with it still.
Oh, there is. And a lot of light people don't realize that when you say, this goes back threefold, that's kind of a curse right there. You're sending the energy back threefold. You're kind of doing some hex work right there. They're not innocent in this. They're
The
not.
Bible has some of the best verses you'll ever find.
Yeah. It's actually funny because oftentimes on these videos, I do get Christians telling me things, and some of the things they write, I'm like, this is like better than any necromancy ritual I've ever read. Like, we're dousing ourselves in blood, we're dancing. Like, this is wow. Like, this is amazing. They don't even realize it. They
Yeah.
funny. It's funny. But no, it really does help people who are connected to darkness because for so long we were told, the darkness is bad, the darkness is evil, you have to stay away from it. But yet, if that's a calling to your soul, if that's something that's so sacred to you, it's important to have an outlet for it. And yeah, like as you said, I have also gone to masterminds and business groups, and I know it's like, okay, what's your website? Right, about that. So we might want to have a conversation before I give you my website information. So I know exactly what you feel in those situations. It would be nice if there was like, a more a mastermind that was more geared towards darkness. So it was open and accepted. And you wouldn't have to worry about like the person who was, into like white light meditation going, wow, you're into some evil stuff.
Yeah, you're so low vibe.
It's a yes. And it's like, no, high vibrational darkness is a thing and it is a beautiful thing. Yeah.
Mhm.
No, it's amazing, but I think it's really needed. Like I think it's so needed in this world to start exploring those elements, exploring those energies. And I love the business element to it and just helping people to expand in business because the dark paths, there is a connection between the physical world and the spiritual world. And it's so important to integrate that and explore that. And that's often neglected, especially on some of the other spiritual paths out there. Was it very
Yeah, and
important?
there's
Sorry. Sorry.
sorry, go on.
I was just gonna say, was it important for you to bridge those two together? Like, do you see it coming together to help the world as a whole to kind of bridge our physical world with the spiritual world and help people make it to the next level?
Yeah, absolutely. Because there's so much programming with money,
Mhm.
and anyone in business needs to be making money.
Yep.
But there's so much programming around money is evil. It's the root of all evil,
Yes.
or it's okay to have just enough.
Yes.
But then if you have more than just enough, if you're in overflow, then you're
Yeah.
greedy. And we're going back to like the original sins, right? And
Yes.
even if people don't come from church,
Mhm.
that teaching, that programming is it trickles into everything. It's in the new age, it's in like the law of
Mhm.
attraction world and everything where people, especially if they're doing spiritual work and they're doing work that's really based on their sole purpose. So it's work that
Mhm.
comes easily to them. There's so many stories tied up around, well, it shouldn't be this easy. Who am I to make this much money
Yes.
doing this
Yes.
that feels so good? It's like, no, this is the best thing ever. Like you get to have a fantastic human experience,
Mhm.
make tons of money, help lots of people,
Yes.
and be in touch with all aspects of yourself. Because I feel that's another thing too with a lot of the, I guess we'll just use like religious programming, and Christianity is the one that I'm most familiar with, especially for women. There's a lot of teaching
Mhm.
around being self-expressed, and you should not be too much, and you should not be
Mhm.
too whatever it is that people are telling you you're too much of. And in business, that's the thing that sells your
Yes.
uniqueness,
Yes.
essence, your energy. That's what people want more of. And a
Yes.
lot of women have been taught, like, no, 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 we just want to be a little bit
Yes.
out there, just the right amount, but we don't want to be too sexual. We don't want to be
Sure.
swearing. We don't want to be doing this. And when you start stripping away the
Yeah.
stories of like, well, where did that come from? Like, why am I doing this? And
Mhm.
why doesn't it feel safe to be fully expressed? And when we work with demons, they can help us tap into those darker aspects of ourselves
Yes.
that we might hold in some shame and guilt around, and really release us from that bondage so we can show up not just in our business but in all areas of our life fully expressed as who we're meant to be.
Yes, which is so beautiful. Like that is so needed because it's so true. And it's funny. So Mammon is one of the demons that I work very closely with. I've worked with him for almost 20 years now. Almost actually, no, it is 20 years. It is 20 years this year. And that was what we've worked on is smashing those money blocks, smashing this notion of shame around making money, smashing this notion around shame around being too much and expressing myself too much and being out there too much. And it had like learning from him and seeing how other people talk about money. It is horrible how people are programmed from birth, basically to keep themselves small, to keep themselves from actually experiencing the abundance of this world and to actually live in a state where they can't actually manifest. They can't create. They sabotage themselves because they've been programmed to. And removing money blocks, like that is a huge thing with my practice too. It's helping people remove their money blocks so that they actually can manifest, they can live the life that they want. And so that is so beautiful as well because we need that in this world. We really need that. And yeah, talking about the church and women, yeah. So it's funny. My mom's an atheist, and my stepdad was 100% supportive when I wanted to be a Satanist. He's like, yes, I'm all for that. But I remember my mom, like I was looking through a Bible, and I was like, oh, it says that we're supposed to be submissive to our husbands. And she looks at me and she goes, what? She's like, you ban that book. Her reaction was so funny. But for somebody that doesn't have that, for somebody who doesn't have somebody with my mom's energy, that can be very psychologically damaging. Like, oh, I have to live small. I have to live meek. I can't take up too much space. I can't actually live. So do you find that a lot of women who come to you, you're kind of up against societal norms that keep them kind of in a cage almost?
Yeah, yeah, the people pleasing thing is huge. And a lot of the people that come to me, even if they're practicing witchcraft now or they're just spiritually open, they do have experience in church. And even though they left that experience a
Mhm.
very long time ago, they're still carrying a lot of that stuff with them. And it doesn't feel safe to be themselves, and they're out there and they're doing things that they don't even really realize that they're doing in order to please other people, in order to be meek and submissive. And like on the surface, it definitely doesn't seem like that. But once we dig in, like when we do a reading, I'm like, oh, okay, this is coming up. Like this
Mhm.
relationship from your past. Tell me more about that because that's affecting what's happening in your
Mhm.
business today.
It's amazing. It's amazing how societal programming, relationships from our past, and how what the things we bring into business, how it impacts us. Because I know for me, every time like I have removed a block or faced one of my money blocks, my income has gone up. It's like they are tied together. They're so intertwined. My own energy versus my ability to make money. They're so interconnected. And even though I grew up in a household where my parents were much more open minded, I still have that. Like society as a whole, we are basically taught to be poor.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember growing up watching Dallas,
Mhm,
and I think JR was the name of the character. He was like the
mhm,
main guy, and he was mega rich, and he was
mhm,
a horrible human being. And that was one TV show.
mhm.
And I remember from such a young age going, rich people are bad. The rich people are the bad guys, and making that connection. And when I started digging into doing my own mindset or money mindset work years ago, I was like, holy cow. Like I was looking at these fictional characters and deciding that that's the way that things are meant to be. And nobody sat me down and said, rich people are evil, but I picked up on it from different conversations, movies, TV shows. And when we're young, we're like little sponges and we just absorb
Yes.
all of the around us. And then we get older and we're looking around going, why can't I have more than $500 in my bank account? And you're like, oh, okay. And then you start traveling
Yes.
things and you're like, this shit runs deep.
Yes, because it's evil. It's evil. And I can think of every single TV show I watched as a child. The rich person was always portrayed, the evil, rich person who, they are just out to screw people and they're the villain and they're the bad guy. And like even like if you look at Christmas carols, it's always, the virtuous person who is poor, the virtuous poor person against the evil rich person who's, trying to ruin Christmas. And it's
Hmm.
it's hilarious. And I have had so many philosophical discussions with Mammon where he has basically been like, why are you looking at that show like that? Like, why do you perceive that person to be evil when really their actions actually are beneficial for this, and this reason? And it's like, oh wow, you see things so differently. And it's just perspective. Like once you change your perspective, you're like, wow, we are being conditioned at every level to be poor. No wonder everybody has a hard time making money.
Yeah, and there's all this emphasis on if you're a hard worker, you're a good
Yes.
person. And that runs so deep. Those two things are
Yes.
completely unrelated. But a lot of
Sure.
people think if I'm just getting by and I'm working really,
Yeah.
really hard, then I'm going to be liked. I'm going to be accepted. I'm going to be the good guy. I don't want to be the
Yeah.
bad guy who just makes money easily because what will my family think? What will the people in the
Yeah.
community think? We still have that core human need to be accepted by
Mhm.
our tribe around us. And even though we don't live in that kind of culture anymore, it's still there. The programming's still there. So we want to do things, even though we're self-sabotaging to keep ourselves safe and not rise too high above those around us.
So true. It's so true. Yeah, we keep ourselves confined in these groups and we don't want to shine. We don't want to stand out. We don't want to be that bold person that charges forward because if we go too far forward, suddenly we're the villain. Now we're the bad guy. Now we are the rich bad guy. We are the villain in this story now. That was one thing Mammon said to
Yeah.
me. He said, "Get comfortable being the villain."
Love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's so good.
He says it doesn't mean you're a villain, but you have to get comfortable being the villain.
Yeah, I've seen that happen in the coaching industry a lot. Like people come in and they'll be fully supported by the community and everyone's rooting for them and they're celebrating like their 10K cash month and their financial wins and like, hey, this is what I made this month. And they're doing it in like a celebratory energy. And at first everyone's on board and they're all
Yeah.
cheering them on. And then as that number gets bigger, people start to turn on them. And of course, there's some people who are doing unethical things,
Yeah.
but even the people who are practicing, ethical business, they're
Yeah.
still having their community turn on them because they have reached a certain level that makes the majority uncomfortable. It's so
Yes.
interesting to watch then the human behavior.
Yeah, that was when I was meditating with Mammon at one point, he said something similar like that to me. He said, when you are under a certain level, they will cheer you. When you surpass that level, they will hate you. And then when you get to a higher level, they'll all want to be you, or they will say they were always with you. Yeah. That's the stages of success. It's hard, like, it's challenging. You get to a certain point and yes, you're hated, you're attacked, and you have to develop this skin to handle it. And I think, like, in a lot of situations, people who are more people pleasing or like women, they have a hard time with that because they don't want to be the villain. They don't want to upset people. They almost feel bad for their success. Like there's a thing of apologizing for your success. People apologize for their success all the time. So they apologize because they've made it. Do you find that a lot with some of your clients that they get to a certain point and then they apologize, like they feel like they have to apologize for any success they have?
Yeah, I've seen this play out, where it's like they have to get rid of the money. And so they sometimes do it without even knowing it, but like certain expenses will start popping up like crazy because their subconscious is like, this is not safe to have. Like, I'm not supposed to be the
Mhm,
person who holds so much money. And so they
mhm,
either get rid of it through unexpected bills
mhm,
or they health conditions, like different things that pop up that cost a lot of money,
mhm,
or they will just start spending like crazy and they will just start like getting rid of it.
mhm,
And they're like, no, I went to this trip and I bought this and I bought that and I did this. And like, now you're starting over at this
mhm,
level every single month in your business. And so you have to like, this gets kind of like
mhm,
involved with a bunch of different things, but it's like they almost have to prove to themselves
mhm,
that they are the person who can create this. And so there's this energy of striving, this energy of like, the chaos feels good. Look what I can do. But then once they get to a certain level, they have to get rid of it. And so there's
mhm,
kind of like that twofold thing where it's not safe for them to have it
mhm,
without wanting to apologize, without wanting to get rid of it. And there can also be this really addictive cycle of I'm really good at making money and when my back's up against the wall and that chaos can become
mhm.
addictive, which is something demons can help us with because that kind of energy is something that they're very familiar with and they can help us see like holy cow, this is exactly the pattern that you're playing like a broken record. Let's correct that.
Yes, and a lot of people I think don't realize is that as you go through the stages of making more money, yeah, the patterns that you talk about, these are incredibly destructive patterns, like only being able to make money during chaos. That one I have faced that one. I have 100% faced that one because that's kind of how I started my business was I had to make money in chaos. So that became familiar to me. But yeah, learning to stop, like, learning to hold on to that money and not just give it away or not have those bills come up because that one is another one that I know a lot of people have experienced. As soon as you get into extra money, bam, it's gone. And yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Demons, they teach you how to see the energies, how to see the energies and to see what's happening and pull back and balance the energies and make them neutral again. So you're not in this cycle of chaos, calm, chaos, calm, chaos, calm. You're actually like, okay, no, I'm neutral in this and I'm going to continue to manifest money and not have the chaos involved in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's powerful work. It's powerful work. Do you help people connect with demons, if they're interested in it?
Yeah, I have a good program for that, the Order of Demonic Witchcraft, and I walk people through my process of
Mhm.
how I do that. And I also have a book, The Practical Guide to Luciferian Witchcraft, that gives
Oh,
people
awesome.
an outline of how to connect with them in
Mhm,
a respectful way, but
mhm,
without a lot of the I don't know. Like, there's no ceremonial magic,
mhm,
nothing like that. It's
mhm.
very simple, it's very straightforward,
Yes.
and it's worked for me. But my big thing is, and I feel I wrote the book and I also
Mhm,
created the program for what I needed back when I first started working with them because
mhm.
I'm the type who can get lost in information. Like
Okay.
I can get curl up on the couch, cup of tea, and a cult book, and I'm in my happy place. But the real work is at the altar or
Yes.
wherever you choose to have your practice and connect with the demonic.
Yes.
And it's through building those relationships, that's when the change starts to happen. So that's my big thing when I do work with people who do want to connect with the demonic. It's like,
Yeah.
let's get you with them. Like, let's get you working with them so you know them.
Mhm,
Because going to Google or the Encyclopedia of Demons,
mhm.
that's great and everything. It can give you a
Yeah.
base idea of what these different
Mhm,
beings are known for, but they're going to reveal themselves to you in a way that's going to be the most supportive. And so you might work with Lucifer and he might be known to help people with certain things
yeah.
and be very popular in certain topics. But with you, he might help you with something completely different because
Mhm,
that's what's meant for you at that time.
mhm.
So really building those relationships is the only way that you're going to know like how these entities interact with you and how they can truly help you.
Yeah, I like that the 80-20 rule for that. 20% research, 80% action and connecting.
Ah, I love that.
Yes. The 80-20 rule works in, like, all areas of life, including connecting with demons. Yes. That's awesome. No, that's awesome, and I love that. I love the practical approach because, yeah, like, okay, I have the space for altars and ceremonies, but who does? Who does have that? Like, I do this for a living. Somebody who, has kids or pets or, they're trying to manage a business, like, they don't have time to, like, set up all the altars. So I love the practical approach to just connecting and to working with them and to start basically today receiving guidance and wisdom and basically the skills you need to take action and move forward. That's amazing.
Yeah, and you can start with, like, a comfy pillow in a corner of your living room, like, it does not have to be complicated, you can do it
Mhm.
anywhere if you're traveling, like,
Yes.
I do find it fun sometimes to get right into the ritual and get all the
Yes.
things out. I think that's really great, but also that can be a trap for people. I think, at least in my experience, going back to my very early days with Wicca,
Yeah.
when I was doing things out of a book because I thought that was the right way to do them, that had to be done like that,
Mhm.
I was going through the motions and doing the rituals correctly, but I felt completely disconnected
Yeah.
from the energy and from what I wanted to really feel. And so now it's like I'm going to do things a certain way because I know that
Mhm.
repetition really helps me move into the right state to connect with
Yeah.
these entities. But at the same time, there gets to be flow. There gets to be that
Mhm.
flexibility.
I love that because that's one thing I teach too. It's like, okay, here's the ritual. This is a guideline. It's just to give you an idea. It's not set in stone. You don't have to follow it word for word. Read it over, see what you like, and modify it to what works best for you. Like that's what it should be. This path should be, this is the baseline. This is kind of how these are ideas to connect. But if something else works better for you, if something else speaks to you more, do that. Follow what's right for you. Follow what's resonating with your heart. Like that's the most important element is to find what works for you. And if that doesn't work for me or anybody else, doesn't matter because it works for you.
Our spiritual practice should be something that we get to live,
Mhm.
not something that we just
Yes.
do out of habit or
Yeah.
routine once a week or once a month. It's something that gets to be this living, breathing thing that grows with us.
Exactly. And that's another thing I tell people is that, if even if you're doing dishes or you're vacuuming, you can connect that way. So that's some of the greatest tools right there, just repetitive motions in your house, cleaning and cooking and, doing dishes. Like just let your mind connect and just see what comes through it. It's so powerful. Like you don't need a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Like it's great. I love that. I love the synergy between our paths. It's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So the people that you work with, so what type of clientele do you usually work with? Like what kind of people are you looking for to help in everyday life?
Yeah, so I have like two main avenues in my business.
Yeah.
There's the spiritual mentorship for people who want to work with demons.
Mhm.
And those people, a lot of them, they already have some experience with magic and witchcraft, but
Mhm.
there is that drawing that they have
Mhm.
to that path to work
Mhm.
with the demonic, but they
Mhm.
come from all different backgrounds. And then with my coaching clients, the majority of them are entrepreneurs who are
Mhm.
already established and they're kind of hitting this invisible ceiling
Yeah.
and they already know the strategy, they already know how to show up and take action, but it's like they keep bumping up against
Yeah.
something and they can't quite put their finger on it. And so for those people, I do the energy work, I do psychic readings, and then I also coach them
Mhm.
with the focus really being on the energetics, the
Mhm.
self-expression, the allowing more of you to come
Mhm.
forth and letting go of the old programming, letting go of the old religious trauma that's telling
Yeah.
you to stay quiet, stay small, and not make too much money because we all have that internal thermostat. And even if people are making a considerable amount of money, they still have that cap that they're telling themselves, like, it's okay as long as I don't go above this, because
Mhm.
then I'm going to make more than, my parents, or I'll make more than the other people in my industry
Mhm.
and what people think. So we really dive into what's going on
Mhm.
internally with that. And most of them have already created usually multi six, seven figures, and they're
Mhm.
just ready to blow that in a way
Yeah.
where they're not focused on like the hustle and the hard work and any of that nonsense because they're at that point where they're like, if I keep doing things the hard way, I'm just going
Yeah.
to burn out and like ruin everything. So we've got to make this, it has to be done in alignment. It has to be made the right way.
Yeah. Working smarter, not harder. It's so important.
Eh,
You get to a
Yeah.
certain
Mm.
point where there's only one of you and so many hours a day and you just can't do it anymore. You can't work yourself to the bone strategy. You have to move past it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
and if you're like if you're at your kid's soccer game and you're
Yeah.
glued to your phone because you're in your
Yeah.
DMs making sales, like that's not sustainable. You're missing
No.
your life. And
No.
a conversation I have often with my clients is like, are you in the present moment? Like, where are you right now? Are you dwelling on the past? Are you anxious about the future? Or are you in your life? Because this is all we have. Like this
Yeah.
moment right now is really all we have. And if you're so stressed out and focused on like that next money goal or that next contract, that next
Mhm.
deal, it's great to have a vision that you're aligning to,
Yeah.
but at the same time, you get to be fully present with where you are now.
Yes. Yeah, and so many people like that is one thing that I found working with demons. They're like present, be in the moment, be right here, be right now. Stop dwelling on the past, stop thinking about the future, what is happening right now. If you are not here right now, you're going to miss it.
I've had Lucifer kind of like, I've seen the vision where I'm like, I'm really anxious about the future or dwelling on something. And it's like, I have this vision in my imagination of him like grabbing me and like, get back here. And he's like, get back to the present moment.
Yes. Yeah. Being called out by demons. It's,
Oh
you have
gosh.
to get
Yeah.
used to it on this path.
Yes. I have sat down on my altar so many times to connect with really any demons. I find they all tend to bring this vibe, and they're like, we literally just talked about this yesterday. Like, we are not doing this. Like, pull your head out of your ass and sort this out because we're not playing in this nonsense anymore. I'm like, oh,
Yes. Didn't
okay.
I give you that answer yesterday? Yes. I mean, I love it. Like, I love it. It's funny because it's like I see this look on Mammon's face and I'm like, oh no, I'm about to be called out. I just said something. I just said something. And it's great though. Like, I love their wisdom. Like, I absolutely love it. And I find that like, even when you're called out and you're like, I don't want to accept this. It's such good advice. Like, they are just, the wisdom that they bring is just absolutely profound. And I'm surprised more people in business don't work with demons. Like, I am so surprised because business and demons, they just go together. Like, they just absolutely go together.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
Like,
I love that you brought that up too around being bullied by demons, because what a lot of people have the experience of with their spirit guides is that they're just getting warm, fuzzy messages all the time. And if that's all you're hearing are like rah rah cheerleader messages from your spirit team, you might want to look into that, because is that really helping you?
I I have actually joked at times that working with Mammon is at times like she just takes a nuke and drops it on me. It's like, oh, you think you're doing this right? You think everything's comfortable? Okay, you want to move to the next level? All right, here you go.
Yes. Another tower moment. Yay.
Yes, yes. Ah, actually, compared to Mammon, I'd take a tower moment. He's like a nuke moment. Like, he's just he's he's awesome to work with. Like, I love working with him, but oh, he will call me out
Yeah.
on everything.
Yes, that's one thing I always share with people who are wanting to get on this path. And I'm like, if you're not into tough love, if you're not comfortable being wildly uncomfortable, this is not the path for you. Like, tread lightly, because you're going to get shit. Like, it's going to get brought up and everything's going to come to the surface, and it's not going to be comfortable. It's going to be a really bumpy ride. But at the same time, it's like, it's like the calm after a storm, right? After a really big storm, everything is just like, oh, okay, this feels amazing. And
Yeah.
then you can ground into that. You can kind of be with that new space that you're in, that you've created. And then when you're ready, the demons are going to be there for that next
Yes.
round, but you're not going to get like thrown into things that you can't handle. And that's one thing I've really found from working with them, is that they help you connect to your inner strength, because often you don't have a choice to do. I think we are going to get rid of this fear. We are going to tap into our power, because there is no option B right now. And like, oh, okay, buckle up.
That's so true. Yeah. But that's the thing. It's like the tough love, and they will tell you exactly what you need to hear, but they're going to be with you. Like, if you're taking the action, I have found that they're always there to support me. They're always there to help me through things. And even the worst things that I've gone through, like the worst things, they have always been there in the trenches with me, like saying, okay, now you got to do this. Now you got to do this. You're taking action. Keep going. You're almost there. You got this. As long as you're doing the work, they're going to be there helping you.
Yes. Yeah. I do a lot of like journaling and reflecting, and I do some gratitude journaling. And I'm like, I'm always wildly supported. Like, there are times where my brain goes into Chicken Little mode. It's like, the sky is falling. What am I going to do? And humans are like, hello, have you seen your life? Like, you're fine. And oh, okay. It's kind of being a drama queen there for a second. But yeah, they're always there. Like, when you show up for yourself, the spirits will show up for you too.
Yes. And when you step into your power, like, I find that the things that have manifested from working with them, if I step into my power and do it, they're right there helping with the manifestations. Like, what has manifested has just been insane, absolutely crazy. And like, I'm just sitting there like, wow, that just happened. That's incredible. And it's because I trusted, I let go of all my fears, of all my stubbornness as well, because stubbornness is, you know, I'm very stubborn at times. And then if I do it, it just happens. And man, does it happen. Like they are amazing to work with. Amazing.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, and things can happen so quickly. Like I had something happen here at the house that I did work with demons for a resolution of it, and what actually happened blew my mind. Like I was like, this is 10 times better than I even expected, and it happened like 10 times faster. I'm like, okay. But even in moments like that, I find after working with them for as long as I have, and even doing magic before I started working with them, those moments, I feel they're really important, like, write them down, like, record the magic that you're doing with demons or not, because your brain will wanna brush it off and be like, "Yeah, well, are you really capable of doing that again in the future?" But when you have written evidence and you're like, "I wanted this, I called on these demons, and this happened." Like, okay, you can't argue when you have the experience written down there as proof, but I do find, like, they can work shit in ways that just blows my mind.
Oh, it's incredible. And yeah, that's the funny thing too. I find that these things manifest. I'm like, oh yeah, this is just normal. And then people like, no, it's not normal what you do. It's not normal how you manifest all this stuff. It's not normal. And like, oh yeah, I guess I have to, you know, take into account everything they do and really like appreciate it, not get comfortable with it.
Right. Yeah. Like, don't take it for granted, but
Yeah.
also know that it's always available for us. It's kind of like
Yes.
walking that line of
Yeah.
gratitude and also expectancy because that's what they're there for. They're here to teach us, they're here to
Yeah.
support us. And like again, as long as we're showing up and doing the work, the level of support that we have with the demonic divine is just it's next level.
Oh, it absolutely is. It absolutely is. And I have been supported through some of the worst things, like some of the worst transitions. And every time, man, and he's like, you will appreciate this experience in 2 years. Like you will absolutely look back on this and you will appreciate this for all the lessons you learned, all the wisdom gained, and how much like closer you are to the goals that you want, like your end game goals. It's
Mhm.
amazing. Like it's just so amazing. So you have a book out, and is that book available on Amazon? Or
It
where can
is. Yeah.
yeah. Awesome, awesome. So we will include a link to the book so that anybody who's interested can download it because honestly, it sounds absolutely amazing and absolutely perfect for so many people. Because I know a lot of people that is one of the hesitations to working with demons is, oh, I have to do the ceremony. Or so if I've been unfortunate to find one of the old ceremonies, this ceremony is horrible and cruel and awful, which was my first experience when I read that ceremony book. So having a book that's more practical and also works with them in a way that is respectful. I mean, I think that's incredibly appealing to a lot of people and it's not something that we see a lot of. Like it's not something that's out there. Most people when they think of working with demons, I think they think of like the Goetia or those books, which yeah.
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 Not like Nile.
No, not my style at all. I remember when I first read it, I was quite horrified actually. I was like, why would I do this? Like, what is the point of this? I'm bringing negative energies into this ritual space. And that's one thing.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that too? Like, if you bring negative energies into the ritual space with them, like as somebody who brings like cruelty in, they're going to get cruelty back. But if you bring like respect, if you bring like, working with them, if you bring that like, okay, I want to connect, I want to learn from you, that enthusiasm, they bring that. So it's like working with demons isn't dangerous because they just reflect what you bring into them.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you brought that up because I do have conversations with people who are afraid of having big, scary, bad
Yeah.
experiences with them because they've heard the horror stories. I'm like, well, how were these people interacting with demons? Like, were they forcing them to do things? Because I know as a human being, if I'm forced to do something, I'm going to react negatively, like, as opposed to someone respectfully saying, like, hey, I'd like to, get to know you and maybe we could do this work together. The energy that we bring into the ritual space definitely impacts the experience that we're going to have with these entities. And they're not to be messed around with. And I do have a lot of concern for some of the stuff that's out there. Like I don't feel like they are above us in any way. Like I do use the term demonologist and I do worship demons, but that is not meant to be in a place where I'm putting myself beneath them.
Mhm.
I worship everything around me because there's this reverence. Like I feel like the trees, the animals, the
Mhm.
everything around us is worthy of our respect because it's all
Mhm.
divine, including the demons that we work with. So we don't need to go before them as these weak little human beings who are groveling or anything like
Yeah.
that, but forcing them into like a circle or a triangle, whatever they do in the methods. I'm just like, I wouldn't I would steer clear of that unless you want to invite a whole bunch of trouble into your life.
100% true. 100%. Like I agree with that so strongly. As I've worked with like Andres or Belial and demons that people are like, oh, you have to be like really careful. You have to, have protection and you have to be able to shield yourself. And I'm like, I've never had that problem. And if you really want to get technical, like, okay, if I was conjured into a triangle and, been giving commands and basically threatened, I mean, I'd be downright evil. I'd be like, all right, you just wait till this triangle fails, buddy. You just wait. You just wait. It'll be your ass nailed to that wall. Like I don't understand how people can't see. It's like, okay, if you respect them, they'll be nice. If you are a jerk, gonna get that energy back tenfold.
Yeah, and I always compare them to like working with fire. If I'm going to use fire, it's going to be done in a very safe way, or I'm going to burn my house down. Like there is a very big difference between using fire to cook a food, or burn some wood to heat your home, and arson. Like there's like a massive difference there. But it's the same element that you're working with, and I find the demonic are like that too. Like they don't have morals like we do, and if you start throwing like magic around and calling on these spirits to do things that you're not really ready to handle, or they're things that you're not really ready to do, then you can get yourself into some trouble.
Yes. And that's where the education element comes in. It's like, learning the best way to approach them, learning about them, learning, how to show respect and how to, come at the energies in a way that's positive and empowering versus, whatever the old ceremonies are, which I despise them. I think they're dangerous, they're cruel, they're horrible, and they are just they're awful.
I agree.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So if people are getting into, so what type of clientele are you looking for? Like if people wanted to seek out your services, what are you looking for? People who are starting businesses, who have businesses, or who are curious about getting into business? Like what is your demographic?
Yeah, most of those clients for that side of my business, they're already around like the
Mhm.
six, 7 figure area. So they're already making money consistently.
Awesome. Awesome. So if people watch this video and they wanted they were curious and they wanted to sign up for coaching, would they go to your website? Like what would they do?
Yeah, best place is either my website,
Okay.
kellydawn.co, or I'm always on Instagram. I'm always sharing stuff about my dogs and stuff up in my stories for any of the animal lovers out there. I live on Instagram and I am Kelly Dawn, and I'm on there all the time. So
Awesome.
they can just send me a DM.
Awesome. Well, we will include all the links to your social media, all the links to your website, and the link to your Amazon book. And do you have anything else you want to share with everybody before we say goodbye for today?
Um, no, that was such a great
Oh,
conversation. I guess as far as like parting words to share with people,
yeah.
if you're called to this path, it is for a reason. And if you're feeling fear and hesitation, I remember what that was like. And there's a difference when you're feeling a fear that's a no, and a fear that's like, this fear is probably from some conditioning, but the desire to connect with the demonic is stronger. Like, follow that desire and stick with doing things that you're comfortable with. Like, don't jump into things right away if that feels like too much. But do your research, read some books, watch some YouTube videos, like do some meditations and little things like that to get your feet wet. Because I do believe that if you are feeling that nudge and you're feeling that pull from the demonic divine, it's because they're ready and willing to connect with you, and it is for a really important reason.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Kelly, for joining us today. This was a great conversation. I had so much fun.
Oh my gosh, me too. I love speaking with you. This is
Yes, it's
amazing.
amazing. It is so amazing. So thank you so much.